Kind of take us through your perspective on Xavier Brown's pick on Saturday.
Obviously, stepping up in a big moment in the game, and you love the resiliency and the resolve to lock in on the detail, lock in on his technique, focus on the moment at hand, and go up there and have the courage and the guts. And really, that's what it takes: is courage and guts to go make a play in that type of moment. You could just knock the ball down. You could just say a lot of different things, but to have the courage to go up there, get your eyes up with two hands to the sky and go pick it off says a lot about his internal resolve and who he is and how he's made. And we expected him to play well and do a lot of good things. He worked his butt off all throughout the week, and you saw a lot of the dividends pay off throughout the game.
Coming out the messaging to Xavier throughout the entire game, being targeted, and kind of what you're saying to him through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We knew going into the game that, hey, Xavier, you're a true freshman in the SEC. We got an older defense. We got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football, and then you got a guy like Xavier, who's a younger guy. So we fully expected a lot of targets your way. We know they had a dynamic passing attack, and we mentioned that throughout the week, and we knew a lot of action was going to come his way. And when you're in these type of, for lack of a better term, battle type games that go back and forth, you just got to make sure that you continue to keep staying focused on playing the next play. And hey, you made a play, even if you did something well. He covered the first vertical of the game. I said, you're going to have to win on 4 or 5 or more of these throughout the game. So it's just to stay in that even kill and stay in the moment and make it one play at a time, and he certainly did that.
What have you seen for practice after the big win, the emotional win, coming back and getting focused for Vanderbilt?
I think you see the maturity of our team. I think no matter what, you're always trying to find ways to get better. You guys saw some of the mousetraps that maybe were around, but at the end of the day, it's a reminder. You're always fighting complacency. You're always fighting that comfort. You're always fighting the things that can kind of take you away from your goals and distract you. So, how do you combat complacency? It's staying focused on where you are, what you need to improve on, and where you ultimately want to go, and putting all of your energy and being intentional about putting in the work throughout the week. It's checking in on time. It's eating the right things. It's hydrating. It's going to class on time. It's staying off of lists. It's watching film on your own. It's asking questions. It's taking the right notes in practice. It's bringing good energy to practice. It's executing in practice. It's doing all the small mundane things throughout the week to prepare yourself. And it's not externally driven, it's internally driven, because we know that's what we ultimately want to accomplish for big things this year.
I was asking if after internally, which we can all understand, but also externally, you've got a team that's coming up against Vanderbilt after such an emotional game. So what is your message about moving on?
Vanderbilt is the next team on the schedule. We have to know who they are, what they're about, what they do. We got to know the DNA of that team. But as we mentioned last week, going into the Georgia game, it truthfully is about us, our execution, who we are, our standards, meeting the standards and the expectations that we have for ourselves, and trying to go out there and play better and better every single week and improve our game.
You had a moment with Xavier on the field after the game, big ol' hug. What was your message to him during that embrace?
You love to see when a guy puts in the work throughout the week and really earns the right to go into a game with confidence, and then let that confidence really be gained by a game day execution. And so there's being proud of him just from the standpoint of, we talked about Xavier months ago about his process and the work that he puts in throughout the week. We fully expected to play well and do a lot of good things, and it's for the sole purpose because I thought the guys prepared the right way throughout the week. And so it's just a reminder, and really just being proud of him and showing that hard work always pays off, and the proper preparation leads to game day execution.
Damani Jackson's another guy who got a turnover. How juiced up was he after that? Especially, he's had a pretty strong start to the season.
Yeah, you love where Damani is right now in terms of I think he's in a good mental space. I think he also knows that we're trying to be critical on ourselves and find every single thing we can to improve our game. And you love that he's going out there and he's competing. He's in a sweet spot in terms of how hard he's competing. He's got a natural skill set. Everybody talks about how athletic he is and those things. I think what's coming a lot for him is his football character, him watching extra film. He came in the office on Tuesday, watched extra film. On Wednesday, watched extra film, taking proper notes, and he's putting in the work throughout the week. He's another guy that's going into games with a confidence, and it's a healthy confidence because he's preparing the right way, and then he's going out there and executing on game day.
He obviously has a great relationship with Xavier going back to high school, but how's he just been a leader both for Xavier and kind of some of these other younger guys having a little bit more experience coming in?
He's done a really good job of, like, just by nature of being one of the older guys in the room and having such a young room and so many freshmen around him. He's taken on some ownership in terms of, being intentional with building personal relationships with each one of the guys and trying to have those personal relationships build trust where he can be in a position to lead guys. And I think he's done a really good job since he stepped in January. He's been real humble with the guys, really kind of putting an arm around guys, real encouraging with the guys. And I think, he's out there making plays on Saturday, which also helps your voice. It helps you have a bigger voice when you can back up what you're saying with the actual performance. But his heart's in a good place. His head's in a good place with how he wants to lead the guys. And I think guys are taking ownership to what he's saying as well.
Coach Womack talked about how difficult it was to play against Georgia when they were basically going for it on every fourth down. How does that change for the defensive backs? How did that change for you guys? What was your messaging with that kind of approach from Georgia in the second half?
We probably all expected, a lot of tight games and back and forth, and then you look up and maybe we're up a few scores, which kind of shifts the dynamic of the approach of how an offense is going to now look at you, because at a certain point you're just going to run out of possessions. So you're almost playing a lot of the mid-third, all the way in the fourth quarter as 2 minutes throughout the entire game. So, we talked about internally as a staff, hey, what would we adjust? What would we change? What do we need to emphasize? If we're in this situation again, how would we do this differently? And just peeling back the layers of the game and knowing, okay, hey, here's what went right. Here's the things that we need to improve upon. But, hey, if we're ever in this situation again, here's some calls we could go to. Here's what we could do in this situation. And just always, it's a continuous process of, okay, here's what happened in the game and how do we improve upon the things we didn't do well at.
Question for you about substitutions. Every staff in the country rotates on the defensive line, but this staff does more rotations at linebacker and DB than I've seen. What's the logic behind that?
I think number one, for a guy to be on the football field, there has to be trust. There has to be trust that we believe he's at the standard that we need him to be at to execute and do his job. If we have multiple players that are proving throughout the week in practice that can do their job, the deeper that we can make our roster, we believe the better ultimately. And you get experience through actually going out there in the game. You got to prove that you can do it in practice, but when you do it in the game, 1 rep can turn into 2, 2 can turn into 4. We know that when you play long seasons, at times we're going to be called upon to maybe not have necessarily our star players go out there and do well for us. It may be an unlikely hero. It may be maybe a depth guy or a guy that's taking backup reps in August that we're going to rely upon maybe in October, November, December to go out there and make a play for us. So we're trying to always continue to find ways to build depth on our roster, and we're doing that with practice reps and also game day experience. And if you're earning the right by way of execution to be on that football field and the 10 other guys can trust you, we want to have the deepest team possible going into the later parts of the season.
Speaking of practice,